All right, let's dive into some of the most dramatic and frankly intense prophecies in the entire Bible. We're looking at Ezekiel chapters 22 through 24. And this isn't just ancient history, you guys. This is a raw, unfiltered look at a city teetering on the edge of total collapse. And it's about God's final, stark warnings right before judgment falls.
It all kicks off with this chilling and direct command from God to the prophet Ezekiel. There's no sugarcoating it. God is literally putting Jerusalem on trial. And Ezekiel, he's been called to stand up and read the indictment out loud. The city which was once the pride of Israel is now called the Bloody City, and its crimes are about to be put on full display for everyone to see.
So what exactly were these abominations God was talking about? Well, Ezekiel chapter 22 lays it all out. It's like a detailed, systematic takedown of all the sins that had completely corrupted every single level of Jerusalem's society.
And when you look at the list, the corruption was just total. It wasn't just one thing. We're talking about bloodshed and violence becoming normal, widespread idolatry. And the root of it all, according to Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 12, was stunningly simple. The people had forgotten God. And from that one thing, the rot just spread everywhere. Leaders, the princes, priests, and even the prophets were corrupt. The poor were crushed, and holy things were treated like they were nothing. The entire system was broken from the inside out.
And the consequence of all this, a complete 180 from their entire purpose. You see, these were the people who were meant to be a light to the world, and instead they became a joke. The surrounding nations would look at their downfall and just laugh, saying, "Look at them. The God they said was protecting them is the very one tearing them down."
But right in the middle of all this filth, God does something amazing. He goes on a search. He looks for someone, anyone, to stand in the gap. The picture here is so powerful. Imagine a city wall with a huge hole in it where the enemy is about to pour through. To stand in that gap is to be the one person who runs to that hole, rebuilding the wall, fighting back the attack. Spiritually, it means to plead with God for the people, to turn them back and stop his judgment.
And here is the absolute tragedy of the story. He found no one, not a single person. The moral collapse was so complete, the rebellion was so deep in the leaders and the people, that there wasn't one person left who could lead them back. And with that, judgment was no longer a possibility. It was a certainty.
As we move into chapter 23, the indictment gets even more personal. I mean, if you thought the last chapter was intense, buckle up. God uses this shocking, really graphic story to hammer the point home. It's an allegory about two unfaithful sisters who represent the two kingdoms of Israel.
Okay, so the elder sister Oholah stands for the northern kingdom, Samaria. Her name literally means her tent, which hints at their false places of worship. The younger sister Oholibah is the southern kingdom, Judah. Her name means my tent is in her, because God's true tent, the temple, was in Jerusalem. Now Oholah cheated first, got judged, and was dragged off by Assyria. But Oholibah, she saw all of this happen to her big sister, and then she went and became even more corrupt.
So, what was this adultery they were committing? Well, it was all about politics. Instead of trusting in God to protect them, the kingdom started lusting after the power of foreign empires like Assyria and Babylon. To God, this was the ultimate betrayal. It was like abandoning your marriage for a political deal.
And the hypocrisy. Oh my goodness, it's just staggering. This verse points out that they would commit the most horrific acts you can imagine, like sacrificing their own children to idols, and then on that exact same day, they'd walk right into God's temple and worship like nothing happened. They were treating God and their idols as equals. It's just mind-blowing.
So because Oholibah, that's Judah, followed in her sister's footsteps, she was going to drink from the same cup, the cup of God's wrath. This is such a powerful metaphor in the Bible for judgment. And the cup is described as deep and wide, which means Judah was going to have to drink every last drop. She would bear the full, undiluted, inescapable weight of God's anger for her rebellion.
And now we get to chapter 24. This is where all the metaphors, all the allegories, they all stop. They become terrifyingly real. The time for warnings is officially over. Judgment is here.
God gives Ezekiel a specific date. And remember, Ezekiel is hundreds of miles away, living in exile in Babylon. He tells him, write this date down. And this is so crucial, because this date marks the exact day that King Nebuchadnezzar's army begins the siege of Jerusalem. It's this incredibly precise detail that would later prove, beyond any doubt, that Ezekiel was a true prophet of God.
And then God gives one last parable, the boiling pot. Jerusalem is the pot. Its people are the pieces of meat inside. Heaping the wood and lighting the fire, that's the Babylonian army closing in. And the goal isn't just to cook the meat, it's to boil it so hot that the flesh is consumed and the bones are charred. Then the pot will be emptied, the city cleared out, and heated until it glows, to burn away the rust, the deep-seated sin that's caked on the inside. It is a picture of total, cleansing destruction.
And with that, God declares it's over. It's final. There is no going back. And listen to that last part. According to your ways and according to your deeds, I will judge you. This wasn't random. It wasn't arbitrary. This judgment was the direct result of their own actions. It was the harvest they had been planting for years.
To deliver this last, devastating message, God does something that's, well, it's almost unthinkable. He turns Ezekiel's own life, his own personal tragedy, into the final sign for the people.
God tells Ezekiel, plain and simple, that he's about to take away the desire of your eyes with a single blow. And that very night, Ezekiel's beloved wife dies. Just like that. Can you even imagine the personal devastation? He's a young man stuck in a foreign land, and the one person who was his comfort and support is suddenly gone.
And this horrible personal tragedy becomes a devastating national sign. God tells Ezekiel to explain it to the people. Just as I have lost the desire of my eyes, you are about to lose the desire of yours. And what was that for them? The temple, the center of their national pride, their spiritual identity. It was about to be desecrated and destroyed.
But then the instruction gets even harder. God commands Ezekiel not to do any of the traditional, public things people do when they mourn. He's to groan silently to himself. Why? Because his silent grief was the model. It was meant to show the exiles that when the news finally arrived that the temple had fallen, they had no right to mourn out loud. Their judgment was deserved. Their grief was supposed to be a quiet, personal acknowledgement that this was the direct result of their own sin.
So, wow, what do we do with all of this? I mean, these are heavy chapters, no doubt about it. But they force us to confront some really deep truths about God and, our relationship with Him.
The first big thing that just jumps out is how God talks about unfaithfulness. It's not just about breaking a rule. He calls it adultery. It's a deep, personal betrayal of a relationship. I mean, have you ever thought about your own sin that way? Not as just a mistake, but as a breach of a sacred trust?
Then there's the whole thing with the temple. The people of Judah had swapped their devotion to God for an attachment to a building. They were so proud of the temple, but they'd forgotten the God of the temple. And it kind of makes you ask, right? What's my ultimate go-to? Is it really God himself, or have I maybe substituted him with my church, my job, my family, something else?
And that really leads to the final, most challenging takeaway. The message screaming from these chapters is that God wants pure, undivided devotion. He's described as a jealous God. And that's not in a petty, human way. It's like a faithful husband or wife who is rightly jealous for exclusive love. God will not share first place in our hearts. So the question these chapters leave us wrestling with is a profound one. Have we allowed anything or anyone to become an equal to God in our own lives?